What is this place?
Yeah, so pretty much this is our main, I guess kind of distribution headquarters. All of our items are here. People can walk in and buy it directly and pretty much pick it up same day. And then that's also where we develop stuff, do our R&D and test fits, pretty much everything. Everything's here.
So then what do you actually do?
Yeah, so I guess a good, from start to finish, making a new product, we find a really clean sample. If we can, new old stock Nissan, so just brand new, just perfect. If we can't, just a really good original. And then we get it scanned, then make a CAD model, engineer and have it, tested, and then send it to our manufacturer, and we design a mold and, pretty much stamp from that mold, depending on the process. Obviously plastics are different, but that's the gist of it. And that can take, from start to finish, anywhere from 1 to even 3 years. So it's a tedious process, but we think it's worth it because in the end, the product's really good, it fits really good, and it's just all around just good, better process. So it takes a little longer, but it's better.
How many products do you have available for Datsun restoration now?
I think now we're up to 90 to 100. So counting things like bushings, emblems, plastics, weather stripping, rubber boots, fabrics like carpet kits, seat covers, foam, things like that, metal parts.
And is it just surrounding the 240Z or is it other Datsun models also?
Yeah, so we have some 280Z parts and even some 280ZX parts, but we typically focus on 240Z, but we do want to branch out into more 280Z stuff and ZX in particular. It just takes time.
A lot of the plastic, a lot of the rubber things that you guys make. So right now, what's your hottest seller?
I would say metal panels are probably the best just because of rust and early 240s. At this point, they're so old. That would probably be a really good seller. A lot of rubber stuff, like weather stripping seals, because rubber just can never last. It's very hard. Seat covers, because that wears out a lot too. Seat foam.
So you looked at the parts that you want to create because maybe there wasn't the best example of it on the market, or there wasn't something that you could purchase. For example, these plastic panels.
Yes.
Oh my God, good luck trying to find new old stock or OEM set or anything, even reproduction of any of this stuff. So you went out of your way to R&D it, develop it, and then now you sell this entire set.
Yeah, so a lot of it came from just my personal experience with restoring and what I saw, after having a couple hundred Zs through my shop, what they needed the most. And they were kind of oddly really consistent. They really broke down the same way every time. And so you kind of figure out what they really need. And then if no one else was making it, or if they were making it, but it was, for me, not it didn't fit really well, it wasn't super up to original, that's kind of where we'd start. With the highest demand first, and then just kind of keep going.
And then so this stuff is different material.
Yeah.
It's your design in that it's thicker.
Yes, and so if we can, we try to kind of modernize it without sacrificing the visual look and originality. Because I know it's very important. It's important to me. It's important to our customers. But if we can improve it in some way where they don't notice it, but it's a better product, then we can. It's slightly thicker. It's a different process. And it's a lot more flexible. But when you put it on there and you're done, it looks the same.
So then with something like this, does it come in different colors, or do you have to dye it a different color for the interior?
Yeah. So now we only have black. And so, being that it is brand new, there are plastic dyes out there. So that's why I usually would recommend if somebody wants to change it. With how it's made, it's it's melting into the one color. It'd be too hard to make 5 or 6 colors just for production's sake, and in cost sake, it should be too difficult because the colors kind of get a little different and harder to find.
And then so this is a lot of the rubber stuff you guys make, bushings. What's different about this stuff versus what you can get on the market?
So before we made these, really the only thing available were urethane bushings, which they're not quite factory. They do work like factory, but if you're not really doing racing or autocrossing, it can be a little bit stiff, and in some cases even cause stress on parts if you're not, have everything kind of built around that. That was really kind of the only thing available. There's a few things from Nissan, but really hard to get and very expensive. When really, we we try to make our prices reasonable where it makes sense, and a bushing really shouldn't be that expensive. And so that's for someone that wants an original part that functions how they, how we used to.
You make these shift knobs too?
Yeah. And so those are like original, same kind of wood, same kind of look. And if we can, like this one, we kind of updated. So the base of it originally were actually plastic, believe it or not. They were plastic with like a chrome finish. So we made these just have aluminum. So
So they are improved.
Yeah, so there's better because so that way you won't strip it. And it looks better, has more weight to it, and it just feels better.
And then this stuff, you guys make this rubber.
Yeah, the boots. I mean, these were super hard to get because these are like for a 280Z for AFM boot, and they would always crack. And they cause so many issues because you might, this could be the top side and it cracks underneath there and you don't see it, and you're pulling in too much oxygen before your AFM, so it can't adjust correctly. And so it causes all sorts of engine issues, and they always wear out. So we thought that was a good place to start.
And these hoses too.
Yeah, OEM style. You really don't need the braided, but really it's just for the look. And for a lot of people, that's really important. Even if it's not functional, it looks right, and that's what people want.
And like the door seal here.
Yeah, so that's for your top of the door. And we'll make a full kit. That's only a couple of things that we got. But yeah, that was a pretty cool thing we wanted to do because some of the seals out there really didn't fit that well or really like stiff. And so I spent a lot of time finding original brand new rubber from the 70s and use that as a starting point.
This is a lot of the memorabilia that you have saved also. Like this is so cool. This is from a real dealership.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably my favorite piece. They would have this, to show customers what radio they could get, options, and wanted to change any options and how it works. And
what it would sound like.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And it's OEM, Hitachi speakers.
Oh, these,
Yeah.
These are actual speakers from the car.
Yeah, so.
Wow. Wait, so what is this for? 1, 2, 3.
You could switch if you want a different radio.
Oh, you could switch to this radio.
Yeah. So you could hear different ones. Oh. So yeah, we got
Look at the design. Like, look at this.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like really, that mid-century design.
Oh yeah, with the veneer and stuff, and the curve.
So cool.
It's in great shape. I mean, the only thing that happened was a fuse that come loose, so we took it apart and fixed it, and it works great now.
I just don't get why they saved this, but I'm glad they did.
I know, yeah.
This looks like something you would just trash once the campaign is over. It's like, okay, let's just trash it.
Especially once the radios are dated. I mean, why would you keep that? But I mean, and there's even more, they kept everything. I mean, even like booklets on like how to be like a salesman, like how to sell a Datsun car. I mean, every document. I mean, there's letters from Nissan headquarters to the dealership. Like if they did good that year, here's an award for it. I mean, everything, they kept everything.
How did you get all of this stuff?
So it's actually a funny story. It kind of worked in reverse. So that car, the silver car out there, we purchased that. There was a large auction that happened at Mecum, and they auctioned off it's called the St. Ives collection. And they had preserved like a lot of really nice cars. I mean, 286 turbos with like 50 miles on it. So they were thinking ahead. And so we got that car from one of the original brothers. And so we bought it. I asked him, hey, is there any memorabilia that you guys have? No, we don't have any. I said, okay. So then a guy calls me later on and said, hey, I bought this old body shop from this guy. They had a Datsun dealership outside like Datsun parts. So in a roundabout way, it came back to us. And so we immediately flew out there and pretty much sorted through all these parts and bought the whole collection because it just was like a treasure trove of Datsun memorabilia.
I couldn't imagine what it was like for you to see all this stuff for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you being a Datsun fan and a 240Z fan, seeing all this stuff that's just like stuck in time.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
I mean, yeah, just like stacks or brochures. It was, so hard to even find stuff like that. Original signs. I mean, it's sealed new that they never even advertised. They did like a promotional pack, like a marketing packet. Here's what you do. Never even opened. Just kept it.
Tell me about the metal parts that you have here.
Yeah, the roof panel we just came out with recently. Back in the day, put on sunroofs, and so it really destroyed these cars. And cutting off the whole roof is a big deal, but just the panel's not too bad. So we came out with that recently. Full door shells, fenders, and frame rails. And the frame rails, we start with an original piece and we have all the attachments to it, wire loom, every small piece, just make it really easy to install. Tail light panel, pretty much a complete rear end of the car.
And this really comes from you restoring these first and understanding what
Yes.
it needs to be like in order to restore them properly.
Pretty much. And so I found a lot of times rust would happen right here where the hatch shuts and then right there underneath there. And that can be really hard to repair. A lot of curves, a lot of tight places. And it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's almost easier to replace the entire thing because it's quicker and it'll be a better looking product. And at the end of the day, that's how Nissan did it. And so that's how we do it. They had the entire panel versus they didn't, sell just that. It was the entire piece. And so we think there's, some reason for that. And so that's what we do. And it's cleaner too. When you do factory spot welds versus like a butt weld, it's a lot easier.
Now there's a couple people on the market that make this sort of stuff. What's the big difference between this stuff versus what's already available?
With us, it's more, I would say, just more attention to detail and thinking of the enthusiast when installing parts. Our parts are very, as close as finished as possible. So no like patch panels or cut panels, things that you have to like weld in there. They're as complete as we can get because we know most people, body working is the hardest part of what they're trying to do. And so if it can be made bolt on, complete as possible, it makes it just easy to install. That's our main thing.
Right, and then this stuff is designed to restore the car to original.
Yes.
Versus, I'm assuming maybe some other individuals make these just to get it back on the road. It could be a race car, it could be a hot rod, whatever. But this stuff, like the point is you want to replace it to the point where you couldn't tell.
Yes. And really give somebody the option. If they are making a race car and they want something easy to install, it still works for them. If someone wants original stuff, it works for them as well. It's just, you make the factory piece and then people can decide if they want to modify it, but at least you're starting from how Nissan started it. And that to me is the best way to start.
It's so crazy to me that you went out of your way to decide, okay, we're gonna make these. So you get the original part or something as close as possible, or do you even get maybe the original blueprints or measurements? Or
I've never found something like that. It'd be really nice to, but we do reference like catalogs. That's a lot of reason why I collect catalogs and brochures is because there is good information about how they assembled it and blowouts of the car and pieces that you don't really think about. And so it's nice to visualize that and see how all the different pieces and how they would have packaged and sold it, how they would have assembled it. So that we use that reference stuff, and then also just finding them in new old stock condition really is the best. And after that, just finding a really nice original.
you develop the parts, you get them stamped overseas. Like, how does that all work?
Once we have a mold made or a die, we produce a sample and bring it over here and test it. And we pretty much just install it ourselves and just see how long it takes, how easy it is. Is there anything we need to do? And then modify it as needed. And that can take, depending on how complex the product is, it can take up to a year or a year and a half. And so it's a little more effort, but I think it's worth it in the end because then we know our die is right, we know our mold's right, and it'll be good for years to come. And then we, make a large batch, bring it here, because we also don't like how, we don't do any drop shipping. We like things to be here. Be in stock, someone once they get it, they know they're gonna get it. I think that's kind of going away in some companies. I think it makes it a little bit harder because people, when they buy it, they want to get it right then.
And that's what all this is. These are all the body panels and
Yes.
everything that you have. All of it is in stock here in Georgia.
Yeah, so we buy pretty much a year's supply.
What's this? Are you guys developing some more stuff here?
Yeah. So this is kind of like our R&D table. So we bring in new parts that we're developing or parts that we want to develop and want to send out. So for example, like our gasket, that's what we're kind of working on now behind the scenes, a complete gasket kit. I was lucky enough to find an original Datsun gasket kit from one of like Datsun's manufacturers that they subbed out to, complete kit. And so I saw that, I mean, it's a great opportunity to make a really nice kit that fits well.
So are you potentially doing other stuff like taillights, headlight covers,
Yeah,
mirrors?
and so, yeah, here's where we keep some of our nicer kind of like specimens, new old stock, and kind of our plans to the future. Like we want to do rubber grommets, the tail lights for 280Z, and fender mirrors, OEM style, and the headlight buckets. And we just recently got in windshield trim. So that's going to be stainless steel for a 240Z windshield and back glass.
That's original for the window, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, it was never used. The stick-on tape was never like applied. It just was rolled up.
Whoa.
And so I think that's why the color is so sharp. It never got exposed to the sun.
Right, because what you would do with this is you would just put it onto a glass that's facing the street or whatever.
Yep.
And this would stick to it.
Yep.
That is crazy. So is that like heat that they use to transfer it, or is it just pressure, I wonder?
Back in the day, I mean, now it's dried up, but it would have just been a peel and stick. Now it's just gotten so old, it won't come off really. But that's what, from what I've been looking at, that's what it seemed like their plan was.
Oh, here's another one of these sound centers.
Yeah. Yeah, this one works. It's not as good, but this one is a little more complex because it has like a balance control. So you can go up and down, in and out.
Datsun Sound Center.
Yeah, so really cool.
It's funny because it just comes across right away. Like, okay, what is this thing? Oh, it's a sound center.
Yeah.
And it even has antennas.
Yeah, it's got two of them. Yeah, it's
I wonder if this
deal.
is from the actual car.
Yeah, that would have been a good idea to reuse that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, things like that I love. I think they're just great to keep around. I mean, because like, where can you find them? You know, they're so, people probably just throw them away.
Dude, that is amazing. Yeah.
And
Like,
then,
talk about just such a big piece that it would just be so awkward to have around. And look at this. This is like a wall texture.
yeah, I know. Yeah, looks like moon texture or something. Yeah, it was really hard to transport because I was super worried about it. I had that one and the one out there back to back with foam and shrink wrapped around.
Look
I
at
was
that.
really nervous.
210, 310, and 510 radio.
Yep.
200 SX radio. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's a really
How
just
neat.
unique piece. It's so strange that they kept it, but I'm really glad they did.
That's amazing.
And then I kept this piece because I love the artwork on it. Just really cool 70s kind of color. And so this would go like in a light box and be lit up. So just really pretty. Yeah, I love the color on it.
It looks so clean. It looks like it was just made.
Yeah, I don't think they ever even presented this. It was like just in a bag. They never even displayed it really.
That's amazing. It really is so cool. So these are all the tubs.
Yeah, different. Yeah, spare tire wells.
And you guys make
bumpers.
bumpers.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of metal stuff. We're making even more metal parts now.
Do you have those overrider?
Not yet. The little bars were actually
Yeah.
like a Amco option.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, so
I
not
didn't know
quite
that.
factory, but they were so prevalent, people thought they were factory because they're all
Yeah.
over. Amco is so big.
Yeah, because I have those on my car.
That's a big option back in the day. And we just now added the rubber strip for the bumper. And then we're going to do the overriders, like the little bumperettes. We're going to do that next with their rubber too.
Nice.
Quarter panels. So that's a NOS piece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's super hard to track down. So that's for a 280. And I just recently dropped off our 240 quarters. I had a pair, and I dropped them off with our engineer to get scanned and made it to a model. So that's gonna be our next big task is doing the quarters. So it's gonna be a big job, but I think it'd be really great because, what's out there currently is not quite how Nissan made it, but this is how they made it with all the framework, and it's more complex, but I think it's gonna be worth it because it's gonna install easier.
It just makes me so happy that you're going through this effort
Yeah.
to do this. Part of it is that it makes me happy that the market is there to support you.
Yeah, that's really the key. It's so nice every day when people come in that let's say they're 40, 50 years old and they are so surprised with what's available now, and they've had their cars for 30 years. And man, this stuff used to never be available. So it's nice that they held on to them long enough, and then now they can get support and they get parts, and I think it promotes more restorations.
It's interesting because when I first got into this world, when I first bought my car when I was 21 years old, the cars were already old enough for them to need to be restored.
Yeah.
And I mean, because realistically, they weren't designed to last this long.
No.
You know, they just weren't.
No.
They would deteriorate just sitting there, as you mentioned, with the rubber and everything. So it's so cool that there's like this huge resurgence.
Yes.
And I'm assuming a lot of your customers are overseas.
A decent bit, surprisingly, yeah, a decent bit are, which is always nice to see. I mean, we've sold all over, and there's so many little small Datsun clubs all over. It's crazy how popular it is, and it's nice that it's getting more popular. And then also younger generations, people that are 15 to 20 years old are getting into them now too. So that's nice because with some classic cars, they're somewhat like generational, where the next generation doesn't care for them, doesn't like them. So it's nice. It looks like it's going to continue on for a long time.
This is one of the things that you guys make too.
Yeah, the original style hubcaps, like the graphite finish, and they also make the D version too, which initially was a lot more rare. Just I thought people would be more likely to do factory restoration, factory hubcaps if they were more reasonable. They were so expensive and so hard to find. So just make them reasonable. People, will do more factory stuff. They just make them attainable.
So how much do these cost?
So instead of four, it's $400. So for example, like D hubcaps, same price. The used ones used to sell for $1,000, or $1,500 like a set. Just like astronomical.
Just for some hubcaps.
Yeah,
that can fall off anytime.
Yeah, which like in hubcaps, like inherently are cheap, right? But because they were thrown away, it made them artificially more scarce.
Yeah.
Which I believe really didn't need to happen because it's hubcap. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Make it reasonable. And
this is your development car?
Yeah. So pretty much, I thought would be the best way to show parts and things we do is just put it on a car. And so every part that we have, most of them, we put on and display. So all of our panels, our rubber hoses, our radiator support. Really a lot of stuff, and we're about to actually do some more stuff and add on even more parts. We've actually got coming out, it's actually pretty cool, I'm pretty excited about it, is full exhaust kits. So we're going to factory 240Z exhaust and a factory like Z432 style exhaust. So we're going to be able to give like 240Zs dual exhaust like the Z432s.
Are you going to replace the roof on this soon?
We might, yeah. I hate to because the roof's in good shape, but to display it. But we actually have a mobile display kind of sort of thing. I have a roof that we have cut off at the pillars, and I put our roof panel on there. And I bring it with me where I go to kind of show how it fits on a factory frame.
It really is amazing what you've done. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're super happy that the market responded the way it has, and we can keep doing it.
So in essence, now is probably the easiest time or the best time to restore one of these versus a couple years ago.
Yeah, because even though I get that the values have gone up a good bit, but back in the day, people had to hand make stuff and pay. Like let's say they couldn't buy a new door, they couldn't buy a new hood, they had to pay a body guy to repair it. That's really pricey, and so now you can get panels for really not that bad and replace them. So I think it's kind of pros and cons. It's more availability. So your restoration is easier, but that initial buying in can be a little bit difficult because they've gotten a little more valuable, but it's still worth it.
Yeah, it's even more worth it if you have a car that you got earlier at a lower price point, and then you just decide, okay, now is the time to start restoring this.
Yeah, and we've seen people even now almost like re-restore cars from the 90s that when they were cheaper, people put like aftermarket stuff like weld tails and fiberglass stuff that like were very like time period kind of correct, but if you don't like them as much now, they're re-restoring those back to original. So that's kind of interesting.
All the brake lines?
Yeah, so pre-bent brake lines just to save time, and it's just really easy because the brake lines get so rusted and the nuts get rounded off and it's just a real pain. And yeah, they're just nickel plated. So have a nice finish to them, nice protective finish.
And then so you take it and you just bend it here.
Yeah, so if we have to, we'll make like a shipping bend, and which like we'll mark. But yeah, it's obvious, like just a wide bend. But then everything else, like you're good. So you bend it out one time, and then the rest of it is all factory bends.
Whoa, this is it.
Yeah, well, I mean everything, like literally everything. There's actually 2 of those. Yeah, so we got every piece of that dealership.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
There's
so,
like an exploded car here.
yeah. So some stuff I couldn't even display all of it. I didn't have enough room.
B210 costs you less in the long run.
Yeah, there's even more stuff in there. I just didn't have room for it. No, but so many different flyers.
Customer Information Center. Everything was a center.
Yeah.
There was a center for everything.
Yep.
Little Hustlers is the next one. Did you spend time to look through all this stuff?
Oh yeah. When I first got it, yeah, it's so pretty. They use so much like nice color and just artwork, you know.
I bet you could get this restored.
Yeah, it got damaged during like transit and really was unfortunate.
Datsun saves, because that was like the big thing.
Yeah, that was our
back then,
slogan for the time.
right? To save on gas.
Just stickers never even used. This one is really pretty cool.
Wow.
The color is really nice on that. And then this one, really kind of neat too.
Whoa.
Yeah, just kind of cool.
Look at that.
I mean, that had to be really a big deal back in the 70s, you know, to all this color and design.
I'm assuming and this is for the window too.
Yeah, that one, I don't really know where they went. But yeah, I guess window. And then some of these parts you can see, like, there's a taillight panel over there. That's an original Nissan one. So we keep those as our originals just in case something happens with the mold and we need to go back. We keep all the originals.
Do you think you want to build a showroom eventually, or like a museum or something?
I'd like to. Probably the next time we move, I would like to build an even bigger kind of room.
Maybe have some good examples of the cars, or maybe an
that would be
unrestored car.
amazing,
And
yeah.
all of the memorabilia surrounding
Yeah.
it. That would be super
Yeah,
cool.
that would be really neat. Just once I have more room, I would definitely do something like that.
What's going on with this Okinawa plate?
My dad actually purchased a car from a guy that he was a veteran in Vietnam, and he's stationed in Japan. And he purchased it and then brought it back to the United States and hardly ever drove it. It has 26,000 original miles, original paint. Just a really nice time capsule.
What is it with Z's for you? Like, what made you want to get into?
My friend in high school, he had a 280ZX, so like a little later generation. And I thought it was pretty cool. I never really heard of those. You know, I was always into classic cars. My dad was in like, you know, classic American cars. And I saw that, like, you know, that's pretty neat. And so I looked up more about them. I saw there's more generations. I saw that, and man, like the lines of that car is just great. I mean, fastback lines, just looks amazing. I ended up tracking one down for like $400 in awful condition, and then kind of worked on that and fixed it. And pretty much just from there, just kind of kept going. At the time, and even still now, really affordable, you know, classic sports cars.
Yeah, maybe not so much now. Of course, you can find the versions that are a little more affordable. It's interesting to me because you got into them when they were affordable. How did it make sense as a business case back then?
Yeah, so really the timing was really good for me, because as I kind of got more into them, they kind of got more valuable. And I guess really, you know, maybe it was just some exposure. And then a couple of them sold at auction for a little higher amounts. People started like recognizing them. It really just kind of helped, because that really is the key, is the cars have to be at a certain value to make it worth, you know, somebody to invest money and maybe not make money, but at least get some money back on a restoration, or make it make sense pretty much.
Okay, so let's talk about the timeline, right? So you get familiar with the car, and then all of a sudden now you're wheeling and dealing these cars. You're selling a lot of them. How long did you sell them before you started making parts?
Buying and selling, I did that kind of as a part-time thing when I was younger to make some extra money and kind of work around my like college schedule. And that was probably 2 or 3 years. Really, by doing that, I started realizing, you know, the parts that people really needed that were really hard to find. And I started out just making them for myself, just to supply my own self, my own needs. And then, you know, people were asking for them, and I was listening to them, and kind of, I thought, hey, maybe there's a market for this. And so over time, just one part at a time, just really slowly, while still working and buying and selling to kind of fund the parts thing. And then the parts kind of got a lot bigger, and demand, thankfully, came on for these cars. And so it just kind of worked out like organically.
You were able to ride the wave of these cars going up in price. Therefore, it's worth people's time and money to restore them, and it makes sense to dump that much money into restoring them. And so my question is, like, what makes it different? Because at the time when you started, I'm assuming a lot of people were already doing a lot of these reproduction parts. It seemed like a saturated market, but maybe you saw something that...
Yeah, really not so much. There was a few guys, but really there's a really big gap in the market. So not really any producer. Some parts that we have now, no one else makes. And so I thought, even if this market is small, let's say maybe like a traditional American muscle car, there's no one else doing it, so I'll at least try because there's no one else. So let's at least see how it goes and just start small, doing a part at a time, and we'll see how it goes, because really there was not much out there. And whatever there was, maybe it was really expensive or it was direct from Nissan, really hard to find. So there was some room.
Got it. Okay. So then, whose car is this? Is this your car?
So my dad actually purchased this car. And so I found a forum, like a follower on Facebook on my Datsun page, and he sent it in. It was just sitting out by a house on the road in New York.
Well, it really is a survivor, huh? Yeah,
and so we really try not to change anything. I mean, all the scratches are there. We tried to bring the paint back out as much as possible, but we kind of left it as is. It was originally Zybarted, so that's why you see a lot of that goop. That was what their idea of was like a rust protective thing back in the day, and it did kind of help if it was done right, but it kind of made things a little bit ugly, what we would consider ugly now. But yeah, really original. I mean, has original spark wires from Japan, original Series 1 air cleaner, just some basic maintenance stuff, replaced hoses and some gaskets. Yeah, seats never been recovered.
It's so clean.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a time capsule.
So do you still drive this?
Yeah, it actually drives pretty well. It's a good little runner.
There's a pretty big Z community here in the Atlanta area, huh?
There is, yeah. There's a Georgia Z Club, and they're pretty active. And there's actually a decent amount of guys in the Southeast that you don't really hear too much about because there's not so many Datsun in particular meets as in California. But they're definitely out there. Yeah, it's a pretty good following. It's like every person I meet, they knew somebody that had one of these back in the day. I mean, all the time. We get that all the time. People knew somebody. You
started this here, I'm assuming, because you grew up around this area?
Yeah. So pretty much, I started, my dad had some extra space at his shop, and that's pretty much where I started. And I'm from around here, so that's kind of where I had to start.
I really love the signs that you have collected here.
Yeah.
What is going on with that? That is a huge sign.
Yeah, so that is one of two signs that will be at a dealership from what I've seen from historic photographs. So they would have this sign, and they would have a giant sign that says Datsun in red letters. Each sign was a letter. But that's pretty much your main dealership sign, your main kind of draw. And there's a cool picture of Escondido Datsun in California, and they have that sign in an old photograph. Just like
so it. That's where this is from.
It looks like it. It's the same sign. I don't know how, if this was custom made or how popular, if Datsun's not everybody. But yeah, it's the exact same design and everything.
It's just part of your collection, huh?
Yeah. Now I'm trying to figure out a place because we just moved. I used to have this thing on a giant pole, but I wanted to display it somewhere. I'm just gonna find the right spot because I like to display all the things we find. I think it's cool for people to see, other enthusiasts. It's just kind of neat. I mean, those were never displayed. I got those from my dealership. They were still rolled up. They were never put out. So part of their 79 ad campaign, we were driven. And you see other things like that, their gas mileage thing they're promoting. Really cool, little time capsule.
I can't believe you were able to find these. That is... Yeah,
a dealership in Boston closed down, and I just bought everything they had.
And it was a Nissan dealership that closed down, and they still had all this Datsun stuff.
Yeah, they kept everything. I mean, they were a small-time dealership that started out as a Datsun dealership for used cars. But yeah, they were Datsun, and then all the way up to I think the 90s. So they went through the Nissan transition, but they kept all of their old Datsun stuff. Yeah, three brothers, his St. Ives Nissan, or St. Ives Datsun, and family owned, and they kept all their stuff in the old body shop, and it was literally collapsing on itself.
What's the story with this car?
Yeah, so this was this is actually a 69 production date 240Z, so one of 543. This was actually this was actually saved, or at least partially saved from that dealership in Boston. That's where we got it from. And so that's how we got that story. We purchased this car. It had been lightly restored and the paint was in bad shape. So we had it repainted and replaced all the seals. And that's pretty much it. We kind of kept it as is.
What's your plan with it?
Just keep it. and just drive it occasionally and really don't change anything about it. Really not too heavily restored. And that's kind of how we want to keep it. And what was nice is that it had a lot of the 69 only features, like these little like towers instead of the flat pieces. That's 69 only. Really, very small stuff, but it does matter to like a collector. But really neat that it's also there and nobody's really messed with it too much.
So it had a 69 production date, but it's still a 70 model year.
Yeah, titled. Yeah, technically, yeah. But yeah, VIN number 199. So pretty low.
This is so early.
Yeah. So you see a lot of changes they made, as they thought of things. Like, for example, no defrost in the glass. They didn't think they would need it, and so they didn't put it in there. And then they learned, okay, we really do need that. So they fixed it quickly, but, they didn't have time.
This is so cool.
Yeah, so you really can't find that glass if something happens to it. Like no cutouts in the steering wheel.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not just for 69, that's for Series 1s as well. But then sometimes you could find that they would have like almost like a cruise control setup, but those got recalled. So people would bring them back to the dealership and they swap them out.
Because they would mess up, or?
Yeah, people would try to use them as cruise control and they get in accidents. Is what I've
that's
heard.
the lever on the right?
Yeah, that's a choke, and then there will be in the other slot. They had playing like a throttle thing, but people would use it like as a cruise control, and they really shouldn't have. And so it got recalled, and so people would bring it back. I've seen a few still left there, but most of them got recalled.
That's
and
hilarious.
Changed.
This is interesting that it's not orange.
Yeah, so I've seen these a couple times. It's not original. Only thing I can think of is it looks like a service replacement. For some reason, they would use the blue. I don't know why. I've not heard like a definitive answer on that. But yeah, it's supposed to be orange and no summer winter flap. It should be just like smooth like that other one. So that's a little something different. But we can swap that out if we want to. But yeah, mostly like has its smog pump still and the original Sumitomo spark wires. So really cool. Not been too modified.
This is some of the stuff that you saved too, I'm assuming.
Yeah, just posters. I just enjoy them. And so I just collect them and put them up. And then these are some things that we had made, just like some ideas I had. I worked with a designer to make them, just kind of stuff that we thought would be kind of cool, people maybe wouldn't like.
Yeah.
So we made those.